Welcome! Today, we're doing a deep dive into one of the shortest, but maybe one of the most powerful chapters in the Qur'an, Surah Al-Ikhlas, which translates to the purity. The source text we're working from gives us a really fascinating, detailed breakdown of what these few verses actually mean and how they define the very essence of God in Islam. So we're going to move through this scholarly text pretty methodically, step by step, unpacking every single verse to really get at the nuances. All right, let's get into it. So here's our roadmap. First, we're going to look at why this chapter was revealed in the first place. Then we'll go verse by verse, really digging into the meaning of the key terms. And finally, we'll see how all of this ties into that famous declaration, Allahu Akbar. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The surah's name, the purity. Well, it tells you its purpose right away. It's about offering a pure, definitive statement on the nature of God, one that is completely separate from anything in creation. So you have to ask, why does this chapter even exist? As our source text explains, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. No, it was a direct and, frankly, powerful answer to some very specific questions that people were asking at the time. According to our source, you had all these different groups coming to the Prophet Muhammad and asking about his God. You had Jewish groups, Christian groups, and of course the polytheists of Mecca. And they were all basically asking the same thing. So describe your Lord to us. What's he made of? What's his lineage, his family tree? This surah was revealed as the one single definitive answer for all of them. All right, let's dive into that first verse. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. It translates to, say, he is Allah, the one and only. And believe me, this simple phrase is just packed with layers of meaning right from the very first word. So the verse kicks off with the command qul, which means say. This is a signal, right? It tells you a direct, important proclamation is about to be made. Then you get the pronoun huwa, or he. But as our source material shows, this little pronoun carries a much, much deeper weight than you might think. You see, huwa isn't just a simple placeholder. Our source text clarifies that it's pointing to a reality that we know is present, but whose actual essence is impossible for us to fully grasp with our senses. It signifies a presence that's beyond any human definition or physical perception. And next we get to the absolute pivotal word of this verse, ahad. Now, this often gets translated as one, but its meaning is so profoundly different from the number one, which in Arabic is wahid. Ahad describes an absolute, unparalleled, and completely indivisible singularity. And the source makes a really critical distinction here. Wahid is just the number one. If you have one of something, you can have two or three. It's part of a sequence. But ahad is different. It's a kind of oneness that completely cancels out the very possibility of a second. It's an essence that has no parts. It can't be broken down or divided. So think about what this one word, ahad, actually does. It's like a theological powerhouse. In one stroke, it refutes the Christian Trinity, it dismisses all forms of polytheism, and it denies that God could possibly have a body or be made of different parts. It just establishes this concept of pure, absolute, singular oneness. Okay, so let's proceed to the second verse, Allahu el-Samed. This introduces another fundamental attribute that really builds on that idea of God's absolute uniqueness we just talked about. The term here is al-Samad. And just like ahad, this word is incredibly rich with meaning. It's really hard to capture in just one or two English words. The source explains that it describes God's total self-sufficiency and his role as the one and only ultimate recourse for all of creation. So what does it mean? Our source defines this as being the ultimate master. He is the one that every single thing in creation turns to for its needs. All of existence depends on him. But, and this is the crucial part, while everything needs him, he needs absolutely nothing. This idea of being al-Samad also refines our understanding by telling us what God isn't. The source explains that Samad implies being solid, not hollow, which negates any kind of internal emptiness or need. It gets rid of the idea of needing food or drink or having internal organs or any form of dependency whatsoever. To be Samad is to be eternally, absolutely self-sufficient. Now, the third verse of the surah, Lam Yalid wa Lam Yulad, is, well, it's a direct and completely unambiguous rejection of the whole concept of a divine lineage, which is a central belief in so many other mythologies and religions. This verse hits you with a 1-2 punch. It consists of two distinct but perfectly complementary negations that leave absolutely no room for misunderstanding. They deal with both the idea of God having kids and the idea of God having parents. So the first part, lam yalid, means he did not beget. This is an explicit, clear denial that God has a child, a son, or any kind of offspring. It directly addresses Christian beliefs about Jesus being the Son of God, and also the pagan Arab idea that angels were the daughters of God. Then the second part, walam yulad, flips it around. It means, and he was not begotten. This establishes that God is eternal, that he has no beginning. He has no father, no mother, no creator, no origin point. He is the uncaused first cause, just existing eternally without ever having been brought into existence. And now the final verse. This is the one that really drives the point home. It acts as a conclusive summary of God's absolute uniqueness, and it just seals the surah's core message completely. The verse, "Walam yakum lahu kufuwan ahad," is this sweeping, final statement about the absolute and total uniqueness of God. It leaves no loophole, no room for any kind of comparison at all. The key term our source really highlights here is kufuwan. So what does that mean? Think of an equal, a peer, a match, a counterpart, or an equivalent. It refers to something or someone that is on the same level in any way, shape, or form. So this final declaration states that there has never been, there isn't now, and there will never be anything or anyone who is a kufuwan to God. Nothing is comparable to him. Not in his essence, not in his attributes, not in his actions. This verse just cements the concept of his absolute, transcendent singularity and brings the whole argument of the surah to its definitive close. Okay, so now our source text takes a really fascinating turn. It pivots from the analysis of the surah itself to a very detailed look at that common Islamic phrase, Allahu Akbar, or God is greater. And what it does is reveal how Surah Al-Ikhlas is actually the key to truly understanding what that declaration means. So the text poses a critical question, both linguistically and theologically. When someone says God is greater, what are they really saying? Does that at the end imply a comparison? As in, God is greater than something else? Or does it mean something totally absolute, something non-comparative? Our source breaks this down into two possible ways to look at it. The first is a preferential meaning, where greater is comparative, like saying, this building is greater than that one. That implies that both buildings share the quality of greatness to some degree. The second way is a descriptive meaning, where greater isn't a comparison at all. It's a statement of an absolute attribute, that God simply is greatness, in a way that can't be measured against anything. And to resolve this, the source presents this pivotal narration that gives us the definitive interpretation. Allahu Akbar minan yusaf. It means Allah is greater than to be described. Now, this shifts the entire paradigm. The phrase isn't saying God is greater than other things. It's saying God is greater than any description or concept we could ever possibly come up with about him. And here is the powerful logic from our source that connects everything right back to Surah Al-Ikhlas. It's an airtight argument. For any comparison to work, two things have to share a quality. But as we just spent all this time learning, the surah states there is nothing comparable to God, no kufuwan, no peer. So, if there's no shared basis for comparison, then saying God is greater than something else becomes logically impossible. And that's the final link. Surah Al-Ikhlas acts as the burhan, the rational proof, for the true meaning of Allahu Akbar. It gives us the theological foundation. It shows us that when we say Allahu Akbar, we are not comparing God to creation. We are declaring that his greatness exists in a category all by itself, completely beyond our description and totally beyond comparison. So we'll conclude by just reflecting on this core takeaway from our source. In just 4 short verses, Surah Al-Ikhlas builds this complete, rational, and totally uncompromising framework for pure monotheism. It defines God by what he is, Ahad, the unique one, and Al-Samad, the self-sufficient, and by what he is not. He doesn't beget, he isn't begotten, and he has absolutely no equivalent. And that leaves us to ponder the nature of a reality that is, by its very own definition, fundamentally beyond our full description or comprehension.